Hi everyone, welcome to our 5.3 lesson. This is part 1. And in part 1, we're going to cover part 1 of the notes. We're going to be looking at how to factor trinomials. So we're looking at factoring polynomials in all of our 5.3 lessons, but specifically we're looking at 3-term polynomials, so trinomials. We will also look at binomials in part 2, but most of the time we're spending on trinomials, which are polynomials that have 1, 2, 3 terms in them altogether. So part 1, we've already seen a polynomial before. In fact, when we multiply two binomials together, the answer that we get is a trinomial. So let's go ahead and remind ourselves what that looks like. If I use FOIL, first, outside, inside, last, to multiply or expand this binomial. Okay, so let me write that down. The word multiply is the opposite of factoring. Multiply also is also sometimes referred to in math as expanding. So if we multiply or expand, okay, these two binomials, here's what we will get. Let's do it. X plus 4 times x minus 5. And I'm going to use the FOIL method. So I do the first terms. And that gives me x times x is x squared. Then I do the outside terms. So x times negative 5 is going to give me negative or minus 5x. The inside terms are next, so I do the 4 times the x. 4 times x is 4x, so I have plus 4x. And finally, the last two terms, 4 times negative 5. I keep that one negative sign out front, and I have 4 times 5 is 20. So I have x squared minus 5x plus 4x minus 20. I always will combine any like terms. So the middle terms are both x's, and I can combine them. So I have negative 5x plus 4x is negative x, or negative 1x. Okay, negative 5 plus 4 is negative 1, and I still have to keep that x there. So I have x squared minus x minus 20. That's my answer, and that is a trinomial. So when I FOIL or multiply two binomials, my answer that I get is a trinomial. And what I can see here then, we're going to work backwards. If I go back to my original question, my two binomials, x plus 4 and x minus 5 were multiplied together. So x plus 4 times x minus 5 were multiplied together. That means that they are both factors of my trinomial. There was my final answer, my trinomial. So these are both factors, because factors are things that multiply together to give me an answer or a product. Okay, so these are the two factors of my trinomial. All right, what we're going to do now is work backwards. We're going to start with the trinomial, and our answer that we're going to get is going to be a product, meaning two binomials times together, or two factors times together. And those two factors will both be binomials. So we're now going to learn how to work from the back to the front. So factoring a general term trinomial. We're going to look at the simplest types of trinomials first. And a general term trinomial, when written in standard form is where you put them in order of their exponents. So x squared comes before x, and that comes before the number all by itself. And when we have it in standard form, this is just a formula, okay, where we would have a, b, and c would be real numbers. So a and b here are numbers that come in front of a variable. So a and b, these are actual numbers. These will be numbers. And they're called coefficients. we should learn some of this language. A coefficient is a number that comes in front of a variable. So whenever you see a number in front of an x or a y or an x squared or x cubed, that number is called a coefficient. C is a number all by itself, and it's called a constant. It's not a coefficient because it doesn't have a letter after it, a variable. So C could be any number at all, and it's called a constant. When we see so for example, okay, let me just give an example. So x squared plus 5x plus 4, okay, is an example of a trinomial. This is a general term trinomial where the b is 5, that's the coefficient in front of the x. Okay, the c would be 4, and a would be this number here that's not written. Okay, it's a 1. And a general term trinomial is when a is equal to 1. So every time we have a trinomial where the number in front of the x squared is just 1, we call that a general term trinomial. Okay, so when you see something like this, okay, my example, or anytime that number right there is a 1, that's called a general term trinomial. A is equal to 1, and that's how we recognize it. If there was a number other than 1 in the front, like 2, 3, 4, or -5, -1, that would not be a general term trinomial. Okay, and we have a really fast method that we use to figure out what the factors of this trinomial are. So here's how we do it. The steps to factoring are, we're going to find two numbers, integers, or either positive or negative numbers, that are going to multiply to give us our last term c. So we're looking for, let's go ahead and label our trinomial first. Okay, this last term is c. Okay, this coefficient in front of the x is b, and the number in the front here, 1, which is not shown, is a. Okay, so here, let me keep my colors the same. We'll make C blue just like it is above. Okay, so we are looking for two numbers that are going to multiply to give us C, to give us 4. Okay, and we're looking for those same two numbers have to add together to give us B, which is going to be 5. So we are looking for two numbers that multiply to give us the last term and that add to give us the middle term. All right, so we go through some of the numbers in our heads. What are the factors? What are some factors of 4? Well, 4 could be 1 times 4, that will work, or 2 times 2. Whatever those factors are, so 1 times 4 or 2 times 2, both give us 4. We're looking for two factors that multiply to 4 but also have to add to 5. So 2 plus 2 will give us not 5, that'll give us 4. So the factors that I want are going to be 1 and 4. 1 times 4 gives me 4, and 1 plus 4 gives me 5. So 1 plus 4 will add to the middle terms. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to write my answer. This is a fast method because it's a bit of a shortcut. Okay, and this is how I'm going to write my answer. I'm going to write it like this. It's going to be, the factors are going to be x plus one of those terms. Okay, so x plus 1 times x plus the other term, x plus 4. So we write our factors as a product of binomials. Okay, each one of these is called a binomial, and this is a product. So two binomials multiplied together. This is called a product of binomials. And so the two factors that I found, 1 and 4, are the numbers that I'm going to put right here, x plus 1 and x plus 4. Okay, those are the factors that give me my trinomial. You can always check it, if you want, by foiling them. If you FOIL your answer, it should give you your trinomial again. So you can always do a double check. FOIL your answer, and it should give you that that trinomial that you had in your question. So if I FOIL this, just to double check it, okay, x times x gives me x squared. Okay, outside terms, x times 4 gives me 4x. Inside terms, 1 times x gives me x. And finally, the last terms, 1 times 4 gives me 4. I'll combine my like terms, and I get x squared plus 5x plus 4. That's my original trinomial that I started with, so I know I factored it correctly. Okay, so let's go ahead and try some more examples, and then you can try some on your own. Okay, here's a few more. Let's do the next one. So again, remember, it's a good idea just to go ahead and label. I'm looking for, there's my middle term, b, and here's my last term, my constant c, and I am looking for two numbers that multiply to give me my last term. So they have to multiply to give me that last term and add to give me the middle term. So two numbers that give me 27 when multiplied, and they have to add to give me my middle term of 12. Okay, so they're going to multiply to give us c and add to give us b. Well, what are those two numbers going to be? Let's think about them. Well, what are the factors of 27? 1 and 27, but 1 and 27 won't add to 12. How about 2? Does 2 go into 27? No. Okay, well, let's try 3. 3 times 9 gives me 27, and 3 plus 9 gives me 12. So 3 and 9 work for both to give me multiply to give me 27, and they add to give me 12. So there's my two factors. There's my two terms. So I'm going to factor this now. Okay, here's my answer. I'm going to write this as a product of binomials. So I've got x plus the first term, which is 3. Oops. Times, okay, that's my one set of brackets. And then I have another set here with another binomial, which is going to be x plus the other term, which is 9. Okay, and again, anytime you want, especially in the beginning, you can always check this by foiling it, and it should give you your answer back again. So if you want to check it, foil it, and when you foil it, it should give you that answer again. Okay, your trinomial back. Let's do another one. Let's do this one here below. Okay, x squared plus 14x plus 40. Again, I'm looking for two terms here that are going to multiply to give me my last term. So I'm looking for two numbers that multiply to give me c. And that are, so c is 40. And I'm looking for the same two numbers have to add to give me my middle term, which is 14. So my middle term here is b, which is the number in front of the x. Okay, and that's 14. So we go through the factors. Well, let's see, 1 times 40 gives me 40, but 1 plus 40 gives me 41. I could try 2 times 20, but 2 plus 20 is going to give me 22. 3 does not go into 40, but 4 does. 4 times 10 gives me 40, and 4 plus 10 gives me 14. So there are my two terms, and I write them as a product of binomials. So we have x plus 4 times x plus 10, the other term. Okay, and there's my final answer. I have factored this trinomial. X plus 4 and x plus 10 are the two factors that will give me this trinomial again if I FOILed it. I want to do a couple questions with you that are not always positive numbers. So let's do this example right here. We have x squared minus 29x plus 28. Again, we're looking for, the process is the same. I'm looking for two numbers that multiply to give me my last term. Okay, see? So I'm looking for two numbers that are going to multiply to give me 28. Okay, and that are going to add to give me my middle term. So two numbers that are going to add to give me middle term. This time, though, my middle term is the number at negative 29. So I have to keep that negative, or that, we can think of it as a subtraction sign or a negative sign, but it has to stay with the 29. All right, so I'm looking for two numbers that are going to add to give me that negative 29 and multiply to give me 28. There's some shortcuts here that you can use. When you're thinking about what your factors are going to be, before you even get started, if you have one of your numbers as a negative, that's going to tell you something right away. Okay, the fact that this number down here is a negative, okay, tells me that at least one of my terms has to be negative. Okay, that's true. The other thing I can do is look up here and say, this is a positive number, 28. Well, there's only two ways I can get a positive number. If I'm multiplying a positive by a positive, or a negative by another negative. So a negative times a negative will give me a positive. So that tells me right away that the two terms I'm looking for are both going to be negative, because a negative times a negative will give me a positive, and that's the only other option. I have to have some negative numbers here because my bottom numbers, the sum is negative. Okay, so we want to look at those signs to help us out. So now we know both our numbers we're looking for are negative. What are they going to be? So we start again with 1 times 28. Well, negative 1 times negative 28 will give me 28. And negative 1 plus negative 28 will also give me negative 29, because negative 1 minus 28 is going to give me a bigger negative. And there's my answer right away. Okay, so I write it out as a product of binomials, and I have x minus 1. Okay, so let me use a different color just to show you. So that whole term is going to go in there. So it's x minus 1 times x minus 28. There's my other term. And there's my answer. If I wanted to check, I could FOIL it, and it will give me this again. Okay, perfect. There's some shortcuts that you can use when you're doing these, but I'm going to suggest you go ahead and pay attention to the signs. Okay. If they're both positive, then you know both your terms are going to be positive. But if one of them or both of them are negative, you do need to just think a little bit about what the possible signs could be for your two terms that are going to give you that product and that sum. Okay, I'd like you to try part 1 of your 5.3 worksheet so you can do some of these questions for yourself. You don't have to go beyond part 1, but check your answers. Make sure you're doing them correctly. I post the answers on the website so you can feel confident about your factoring. And that's all for today. Thanks for joining me. Bye for now.